Right now,
Today
53.
we'll tackle tough times in
The
California.
economic troubles facing San Diego will be the focus of Mayor Jerry Sanders' annual State of the City
reports
address.
a 60% hike in rapes where either one or both people.
Process. UCLA researchers tracked the progress of 50 sarcoma patients using a
From the KPBS studios, this is San Diego Week.
Hello, I'm Joanne Ferry, and thanks for joining us. The fifth largest earthquake on record struck the coast of Japan today, setting in motion a deadly tsunami. Tonight, we'll show you what happened when the 8.9 quake struck and how the after effects rippled across the Pacific all the way to the California coastline. And we'll hear from the local Japanese community.
Like TV even fell off the ground, and my mom was like hysterical and just like I didn't know what to do, and I was like watching the whole thing live. And
we'll also have an investigative report on SDG&E's failure to provide renewable energy. And who's going to dismantle the giant eyesore on Chula Vista's bayfront? That is the Southbay power plant. And Alison St introduces us to some Marines learning to be farmers. That and more in the show. But first, Amitha Sharma joins us from the KPBS News Center with the latest headlines. Amitha?
Joanne, in other news this week, the San Diego Unified School District plans to issue nearly 1,800 layoff warnings to workers, including 885 teachers. The district is grappling with a potential budget shortfall next year of more than $100 million. School trustees say they'll do what they can to revoke the layoffs before they approve a final budget in June. Caucasians are no longer the majority in San Diego County. The 2010 census shows that the number of whites dropped from 55% to 49%. Meanwhile, the Hispanic population grew from 27% to 32%, and the Asian population increased from 9% to 11%. More people are also identifying themselves as from mixed-race backgrounds. California consumers gave 9 of the state's biggest HMOs poor or fair grades when it comes to receiving prompt care and scheduling doctor's appointments. Patient advocates say HMOs are also not providing accurate information on the cost of care. Still, the state's HMOs performed well compared to their counterparts nationwide. And finally, the parents of a San Diego State University student found dead in a Madrid river this week are urging other parents not to send their children to study abroad. After the mother of Austin Bice was asked what advice she had for other parents whose children are thinking about studying in a foreign country, she said, quote, "Don't let them go."
Tsunami sirens rang across the Pacific and the death toll climbed today after the strongest earthquake in Japan's history shook its coastline less than 24 hours ago. The pictures tell this story. The 8.9 quake setting into motion a tsunami that swallowed buildings and cars, spitting out debris and killing hundreds. Within hours, the Pacific coastline in the U.S. and Canada braced as tsunami warnings sounded, including an advisory for San Diego. And as we tape this show, the Coast Guard continues searching for a man who was swept out to sea by tsunami surge earlier today in Northern California. He was taking pictures of waves near Crescent City when it happened. 4 other people had to be rescued when the waves carried them out to sea near the California and Oregon border. And in San Diego, many gathered from Oceanside to Ocean Beach to watch for the signs of a tsunami. Law enforcement and lifeguards were on alert, but the morning advisory came and went without a noticeable surge. The USS Ronald Reagan is on its way to Japan's east coast. The San Diego-based aircraft carrier is among several military ships on their way with aid. The ships can provide fresh water and medical help. At SDSU, geologists are mapping out the damage of the quake. Within minutes, the Viz Lab began loading images of the disaster. Geologists here use photos and video to assess the damage and predict when tsunami waves might be coming and where they're headed. The information is shared with coastal authorities, including those in Baja, California. And to tell us more about what happened in Japan and what scientists are watching for now is Debbie Kilb, a seismologist at UCSD. Welcome, Dr. Kilb.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me what you were thinking when you first heard that this giant quake had hit Japan.
Well, the first thought was, are we recording data? Are we keeping that data? Is it coming in successfully? So check to make sure that we're recording this. I mean, just amazing data set. That was number one. We were.
Okay.
And then the next thing is to check the automatic pages and the automatic responses. I automatically get a page on my cell phone every time there's an earthquake over magnitude 5. It was sitting on my desk and had so many aftershocks that it actually walked itself right off the table.
Wow. So you get the data. What do scientists do with the data? What's the first thing they've got to do when they start analyzing it?
Well, the very first thing that people want to know is where was it and how big was it? So there's an automatic location that does that. It automatically looks at all the data, figures out where that depth is, what the lat long is, and what the magnitude is. And it puts that information out as preliminary. And then you have the seismologists come along and actually look at the data more carefully to make sure that is correct.
There were warnings that went out about the tsunami. So how are scientists able so quickly to issue this warning about the tsunami? How do they know that's coming?
Actually, I think a lot of us after the 2004 Boxing Day earthquake are a little bit more aware of when an earthquake might cause a tsunami and when it might not. So the three things that you need the earthquake to be big, you need the earthquake to be shallow, and you need it to be by a large body of water. So check, check, check on all three of those without doing too much research.
We know this quake was the 5th largest in history, on record, in fact. 8.9. Now, just to give us some sense of 8.9, last Easter, we had the 7.2 earthquake, Easter earthquake in the Mexicali area. 8.9, how much bigger is that?
So you don't just think of it as a scale of, 1 to 10. 1 is a little bit bigger than 2, and 2 is a little bit bigger than 3. They scale by a factor of about 32. So roughly speaking, what they felt in Japan was about 1,000 times more energy than what we felt in Easter.
Wow. Now, there are also reports about aftershocks. So what do we know about the magnitude of those and how long they could continue?
So the last I checked, we had about 94 aftershocks over magnitude 5, and there's only one of those that was over magnitude 7, a 7.1. And that occurred maybe half an hour after the main shock. So the general rule of thumb is whatever your main shock magnitude is, the aftershock magnitude will be 1 unit less. So for our 8.9 main shock, we expect a 7.9 aftershock. Wouldn't be surprising to see that.
And how long could this continue?
So as the days go on, the chance of a large aftershock like that diminishes. But in terms of the smaller aftershocks, and since at 8.9, I mean the smaller aftershocks, we're talking 5s and 4s, things that here in San Diego were just like, oh, what was that? So those are going to be all the time for at least a few weeks, and the smaller ones, years.
So last night I was following this news on Twitter, and what was really remarkable is immediately you had a lot of people in California asking, so are we going to see a tsunami? What will happen here? What could happen here? And how do we know whether or not something like this will affect us in California? What are scientists looking at to make that determination?
So after 2004, they really said, let's get on the ball and be able to do this quickly. We need 2 pieces of evidence. The first is data. So we have a bunch of buoy data that are measuring up-down motion, and then we have our models. So you take your buoy data, you take your models. As soon as the tsunami passes, you said, did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Let's recalculate it and then re-up our advisory or whatever warning might be going up. So it's a constant iteration of check the model against the data, and the data is coming in, hourly, minute, and then update it in order to make a better prediction.
And we really didn't see much here off the coast of San Diego. Why? Just sort of in general terms, why didn't we?
Well, San Diego is actually protected. So when you think of the waves coming down from Japan, if we're here in San Diego, up in the north coast, the waves are just slamming just straight on, whereas here they're coming in oblique, so that's saving us. Another savings is that we have the Channel Islands protecting us. You can think of them as little bodyguards out there saying, dispersing the waves. And then we also have the large shelf, and that's also going to disperse those waves. So those 3 things are making the prediction in San Diego much smaller, and that's indeed what we saw.
Finally, Dr. Kilb, we know that it was a tsunami that followed the quake that killed most of the people, many drowned. Here in California, the San Andreas fault is what we worry about. Could we see a tsunami happening if we saw that fault?
So that's a good question, but then we'll go back to our 3 things. So to have a tsunami, you need to have a large earthquake, definitely could have that on the San Andreas. Shallow, definitely could have that on the San Andreas. Close to or under near a large body of water, and we're too far away from the large body of water to really make that happen. So that's not a worry for the San Andreas.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kilb, for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Watching images of Japan's devastation has been especially difficult for San Diegans with friends and family in the country. KPBS reporter Kyla Calvert spoke with patrons outside Misua Marketplace in Kearney Mesa about what they're hearing from loved ones.
I was Skyping with my parents actually last night, as usual, every night I Skype with my parents, but and then all of a sudden it starts shaking, and earthquake is, pretty common, so I wasn't afraid at the beginning, but then it's kept on moving, shaking so badly, and then my dad was holding the cabinet, and then TV even fell off the ground, and my mom was hysterical, and just I couldn't, I didn't know what to do, and I was watching the whole thing live, and then that actually aftershack happened 3 times afterwards too. And then the whole time we were just trying to, keep in touch, stay online, because none of my friends couldn't go get through the phone, because the phone line was all dead. And but yeah, they're fine. But I'm still so worried about it, and then just stay up all night pretty much watching the news, and I'm just so heartbroken. I saw all the footage and everything from Sendai, and it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
I was in the news report actually at that time. And last time, many years ago, I don't know, 20 years ago, I worked in the Sendai area. One time, very big earthquake attack. At that time, 26 people died. But this time, maybe more than, how many died? I don't know. More than 1,000? I don't know. Yeah. It means very big earthquake.
Do you think that they have the resources to sort of get people all the help that they need? And
yeah, I think so, because Japan many times attacked by many earthquakes, so they get used to how to prepare for disaster, especially earthquakes. Yes, like American people prepare for hurricane, like this. Yes.
They know how to deal with it. Some people prepares for the cat's sandbag, because when you're in a higher building, you can't. The toilet all stops, the water all stops, so you can't go to the bathrooms. But they can use a cat litter, and then I heard people are really preparing, but it's still really shocking, and then it was very hard for them. Yeah, I really feel sorry for them.
The Buddhist Temple of San Diego will hold a special service tomorrow evening beginning at 7 p.m. The temple is on Market Street in downtown San Diego. And local relief agencies are taking donations for victims in Japan. The American Red Cross of San Diego and Imperial counties are accepting donations, as is the Salvation Army. It's a 175-foot eyesore, a pile of steel and concrete that has been dominating Chula Vista's bayfront for the past 50 years. It is the Southbay power plant. It was decommissioned last year, and now the question is who will dismantle it and clean up its environmental mess. Will Carlos is a reporter with voiceofsandiego.org. He's been covering the story for the last couple of weeks. Will, tell us a little bit about the power plant. We know it's old. Tell us some more.
It was built in 1960. It was originally run by SDG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric, who ran it for about 40 years. And in about 1998, they came up with this deal where the land and the power plant was transferred over to the Port of San Diego, which has then been renting it out to power companies for the last 10 years or so. So
who is on the hook to do the dismantling?
The dismantling itself, the actual tearing apart of the power plant, is going to be managed and at least partially paid for by the current tenant of the power plant, and that's a company called Dynegy. It's a Houston-based power company, huge company. They've been operating it for about the last 5 years, and right now they're the responsible party to tear it down.
But you have written stories lately about concerns about whether or not Dynegy actually has the money to go ahead and do this operation.
That's right. And now the important thing to remember is that there's a pot of around $70 million on this. About $20 million of that that is locked away. It's state money that is at the Port of San Diego in trust that they have to spend on this. Once that money is spent, then the port can go to Dynegy and ask them for a bunch of money to do this as well. There's also possible claims to be made against SDG&E. For example, if they go out and they do sampling of the sediment in the San Diego Bay and they discover that there's a whole lot of nasty chemicals and things out there, then they might be able to go and ask SDG&E for some money to do some of that mitigation too.
But Dynegy is in financial trouble, so do we know that they're going to have the money if it comes down to them having to put up some of this cash?
No, we don't know, basically. I mean, they've said that they've put it away. They've said that they've had a line item on their budget, that they've come up to about $40 million that they've been stashing away. But the crucial thing is that that money was never held in trust for the Port of San Diego. That means if the company goes belly up, we're going to be lining up with every other creditor, or the port will be lining up with every other creditor trying to get that money. And I actually had an expert in this sort of stuff tell me a couple of days ago they'd be lucky if they get $5 or $10 million out of the company, if anything.
So Chula Vista at one point said, okay, maybe we ought to step in and clean it up. Why aren't they going to do that now?
Well, that deal is kind of dead. The basic idea on that was that Dynegy was going to hand over $50 million to the city of Chula Vista in return for being absolved of any liability for cleaning up and taking down this power plant. The city of Chula Vista was going to combine that $50 million with the money from the port, from the state, and then they were going to have this fund of $70 million to go and do this. Well, now that Dynegy's in such financial trouble, it said it might go bankrupt, they can't really do this deal anymore, because if Dynegy were to write them a check for $50 million and hand it over and then go bankrupt in the next couple of months or the next couple of years, the bankruptcy judge is going to say, hold on a minute, what's going on here? There's lots of other creditors who need this money too.
Too risky to take on that. So finally, once this all happens, the cleanup takes place, how long before Chula Vista gets its bayfront back?
Ooh, good question. The estimates are it's going to take about 2 years to tear it down. It could then take many more years to do the environmental cleanup that needs to be done so they can put things like parks and hotels there. That's the big unanswered question. Nobody really knows how much contamination there is and how long that process will take, but it could take upwards of 5 years.
Will Carlos, voiceofsandiego.org, thank you.
Thank you.
Electricity accounts for nearly half of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. And so in California, power companies are required to produce 20% of electricity from renewable sources. But our local energy company, San Diego Gas and Electric, has fallen short of that requirement. KPBS reporter Amitha Sharma has been investigating this story, and she joins me now. Amitha, tell us a little bit about this requirement. When did it go into effect?
Well, it went into effect in phases. Originally in 2002, they set one requirement. I think it was something like 17%, and then in 2006 they changed it a little bit to take it up to 20%. But, you know, when California embarked on this law, it was thought to be one of the toughest, one of the most aggressive climate change laws in the country. The goal was to prod power companies to transition away from using fossil fuels to renewable energy like biomass, wind, and solar.
So how much of the energy that SDG&E produces is actually from a renewable source?
Well, at the close of 2010, which is when the deadline was, although they have a grace period until 2013, at the close of 2010, they were at 11.9%. 12%, we rounded it off. That put them last among the state's investor-owned utilities. Southern California Edison came at 19%, just shy of the goal. Pacific Gas and Electric came in at 18%.
So why so little? Why are we falling behind like this?
Well, you know, there are several different reasons. Critics will say, look, San Diego Gas and Electric simply did not do enough to build renewable energy projects in the time that they had. Others will say, look, you know, they relied too heavily on the construction of Sunrise Power Link, which is the controversial transmission line that construction has begun on, which is supposed to, not obligated to transmit renewable energy once it's built. Others say the law itself itself is flawed because it requires, or it does not require actually, power companies to sign contracts for renewable energy at a price that's higher than contracts for gas-fired plants. And because renewable energy companies are new, they don't have a lot of money, these contracts, 30% of them either get delayed or they simply don't materialize and the projects aren't built.
So what's the consequence now? They didn't meet this requirement. What happens?
Well, as I said, the PUC, the regulators in this case, have a grace period. They've instituted a grace period until 2013. If the utilities don't meet that 20% target by 2013, then the penalties kick in.
Thank you, Amita Sharma, for being here. Thousands of Marines are transitioning out of the military every month. They're looking for a new mission and a new way to make a living. Archie's Acres in the hills of North San Diego County is teaching Marines the skills to start their own business in agriculture. KPBS reporter Alison St. says some Marines find moving from the battlefield to the farm is a natural transition.
Colin Archerplay and his wife Karen planned to settle down on a small avocado farm in Valley Center after he left the Marine Corps. It's an idyllic location, but they soon realized they couldn't make a go of it with water bills of more than $1,000 a month. They cut down some of their trees, built greenhouses, and started an organic hydroponic herb growing operation. Now they can't grow enough basil to meet the demand from places like Whole Foods and Jimbo's. Colin Archerplay is convinced they've found a niche that fulfills a national need to maintain food security at a time when many family farmers are retiring. They want to teach the skills they've learned to other Marines coming out of the service.
The USDA has a push right now to create 100,000 new farmers per year over the next 5 years. They're not going to meet those goals, but we think we have a population that can certainly help, who have the motivation and the willingness to do this, as well as the leadership skills and the management ability to operate a business.
The Archerplays believe these qualities learned in the military translate well into entrepreneurship, and farming already runs in the blood for many of those who enlisted.
One of the reasons why military people would be interested in this is 45% of military come from rural backgrounds. So not only do they have that in their roots, but that's also a place where they can kind of come back to and feel normal. Feel good about themselves.
The couple has started to offer classes through a local community college to help other Marines make the leap from active duty to self-supporting civilian. The big barn on the property serves as the classroom.
And be able to get feedback from people.
Mike D'Alba will be out of the Marine Corps next month. He heard about this class during a transition assistance program on base. He and his wife Stephanie are planning to go back to his family's farm in Northern California.
Growing up, you know, I always had a big interest in gardening and growing plants in general. To be able to put something in the ground and watch it evolve in front of you and know that you know, you were the one that you know, created that. So, I mean, it was just a hobby, and you know, I developed a passion for it.
D'Alba has served 4 years in the Marine Corps.
My specific job that I had, which was a water support technician, where we dealt with water purification, filtration, location, distribution, things of that nature.
A great background for hydroponic gardening. Now he's learning how to check things like pH balance and nutrient levels in the water that feeds the hydroponic system.
You know, so I mean, it's not getting oxygenated, it's not getting water.
Matt Holtzman, on the other hand, was a city boy. He was a systems engineer for 5 years in the Marine Corps and is already being wooed by companies like IBM, but he has other plans.
I would like to be an aquaponic farmer, which is the marriage of aquaculture and hydroponics. So we raise fish that provide our nutrient for the water that then goes to the plants in the hydroponic system. Those plants then filter out that water and it returns to the fish. So just like hydroponics, we use 90% less water. However, we don't have to add nutrient to that water like they do here.
Holtzman explains how a 300-gallon tank recirculates water filled with organic nutrients to irrigate the lettuce and Swiss chard with far less water than conventional gardens would use.
Archie's Acres is doing something that is kind of groundbreaking, using organic growing techniques with hydroponics, because most folks just pump it full of chemicals. They just nitrogen-rich chemicals that come in a bottle, boom, and they're done. Here we actually brew our own compost tea that is made out of worm castings, fish meal, cocoa coir, a whole bunch of things that just stew overnight, or actually for a couple days, and then we throw it into the reservoir.
The students are also learning irrigation techniques to minimize water use in the field.
I kind of tied together managing our natural resources, national security, and I'm a techno geek, so that's where the aquaponics kind of fits in for me.
Holtzman knows he has a challenge ahead. He's breaking into a new field and he'll need financing and business smarts. But he and the other students in the course are also preparing business plans so they can pitch their ideas to potential backers and retail outlets that sell organic produce.
It's hydroponically grown.
The prospect of an indoor job doesn't motivate these students after their years serving with the Marines in a very different kind of field.
Right, that's one of the other great things about the Marine Corps. You're always outside working with your hands, and this gives us an opportunity to get back to the land and continue working with our hands outside, which is just great work.
That was KPBS reporter Alison St. Classes at Archie's Acres are offered through Miracosta College. And now here's Amitha Sharma with an update on what KPBS is working on for next week.
We'll continue to bring you news about the aftermath of the earthquake in Japan throughout the weekend. And on Monday on These Days, we'll talk about the battle over the state budget.
Thanks, Amitha. You can comment on any of the stories you saw tonight by going to our website at kpbs.org/SDWeek. We'd love to hear from you. And now, here's a look at your weekend weather forecast. Thanks for watching. Good night.